At this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Michelle, will you do a roll call for us, please?
Ms. Hamilton,
Present.
Mrs. Simonetti. Here. Ms. Acton,
Present.
Mr. Reddy,
Present.
Ms. Sharp,
Here.
Mr. Dobies,
Here.
and Ms. Hamilton. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms.
Present.
Hunt. I'm sorry. Ms.
I'm
Hunt.
here. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Approval of the agenda at this time. If I can have a motion.
Madam President, I'll move approval of the agenda with an addition under discussion items for the memo I just passed out, amending policy 8390 on animals on district property under discussion items.
Thank you. So we'll add that as a discussion item for today. Thank you. Anyone want to? No, we haven't. I'm asking for that second right now. Adding it to the agenda. Do we have a second to add that to the agenda for discussion?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I would like to, we just got this document, haven't had a chance to read it. I'm not prepared to discuss it at this time. I would vote no.
Yeah, I'd like to read it first also. I just received it.
I'm also in the same position.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, there really isn't a way, old business is a new thing to our items, but there really isn't a way to discuss something without adding it to the agenda. My intent here is honestly to refer this to the policy committee. This is something that I have talked broadly about, and I think shared different versions of previously about allowing therapy dogs at JPS. My intent is to get it on here and then refer it to this copy to the policy committee.
Trustee Dobies, would you like to make an amendment to your motion and just have it go directly to the board, to the policy committee? Our policy committee is scheduled to meet April 8th.
Yes, as we are setting an agenda to have that discussion and add that as an item to then take action on and have sent, but I mean, typically it is added to the agenda so that we can discuss it at that appropriate time on the agenda. I withdraw my motion and I would move approval of the agenda with the addition of adding the policy that has been passed out, policy 8390, allowing therapy dogs at JPS under old business. Because it is old business and then we don't have to discuss it, I guess.
We have a support. Do we have a support for the motion that has been withdrawn? Motion fails. Now we need a motion to, any more discussion before we approve the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda and place youth representation at board meetings and resolution affirming JPS as a welcoming district to all students, and send it to the policy committee.
Okay.
Support.
Any discussion?
I'm going to be a no on both of those, so no. Discussion based on that. One, we had conversation around this last month. Those of us that have been in decision-making positions for any length of time, some of us sat on city council and we even attained, the mayorship position. Some of us have been sitting at this board table for a long time, and we know that there are ways to get things on the agenda, and that's usually by, sending it to the president or the mayor, and it getting on the agenda in that way. You do not have to put something on the agenda the day of. And we've had these two items on the agenda. We went through the proper routes for both of them to get on the agenda. So I'm going to be a no on that. We've had time to discuss it. We can see what happens in discussion based on whether or not we decide or whether we, wait on them a little bit longer. But this doesn't need to go to the policy committee. Policy committee simply, reviews items and then brings it to the board table. The policy committee does not make the decision. The board table does. And the board should be reviewing the policies, period, whenever the policy comes out. So we've had an opportunity to do that. We don't need more time to sit in policy committee for us to simply come back to the board table to have the same discussion that we would eventually have and then make a decision on it. So we don't need this to go to the policy committee at this time. I'm gonna be a no on that.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hamilton, I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. Actually, that would be in violation of Board Policy 1210.
What's in violation?
Board Policy 1210 clearly states policy should not be originated or changed without the recommendation of the superintendent. So if you would like a policy to be originated, it should go to policy committee, which has been this board's practice for longer than I've been here.
Okay, so I don't know what you're talking about, but what I'm talking about is that once it comes from the policy committee and it gets to the board table, the board are the ones who decide on that policy. Even with your recommendation or anybody's recommendation who sits in the superintendency, it still does not become policy until the board decides on that. The point that I'm making is that when things go to policy committee, it's still coming back to this table. That's one point that I'm making. The second point that I'm making is that both of these items were placed on the agenda in the proper way as a way to reference Derek saying that the memorandum has to get put on the agenda tonight. That's not accurate. That's not true. So the 2 points that I'm making is, one, it's coming back to this table already. We've already had discussion on these items. We've already placed them on the agenda in the correct way, and the items that I'm referring to are the youth representation and the resolution. We've already had those policies placed on the agenda. The board has already discussed them. The superintendent is not the one who decides on those. Yes, we accept your recommendation as in listening to it and reviewing it. We do not necessarily have to go along with it. That's what the board, the elected officials are for. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Do we have you in that seat and whoever's going to sit in that seat to kind of advise us? Yes, but do we have to go with your advisement? Not at all. So I'm not sure what you're referring to, but that's what I'm talking about.
I would refer you, I apologize, I would refer you to Policy 1210, Ms. Hamilton.
Trustee Hamilton, just to give some clarification, yes, you are correct. They did come before the board last month. As far as the youth board representation, we did not come to a consensus last month, as I did send out some models that we could consider. And that's the reason why we are asking that this goes before the policy committee so that we can decide on which model we would like to embrace or adopt as the board. So we have those options that were provided.
Thank you for that clarity. I understood that this didn't go before the policy committee. It doesn't have to go before the policy committee. That's my point. Now, in discussion, the motion that's been made is that we table this to the policy committee. That's the motion that's been made. I already explained that in the policy committee simply does an overview and brings back ideas to the board. The board itself should be reviewing everything, period. They should be. They should be, right? So in that interest, and because we've already discussed this at the last meeting, the conversation that we have today, if we were not dealing with this issue as far as removing it and sending it over, could have included and should include, we've got these things that we've discussed, that we've sent out, that's been in our emails. We have some options. Do we want to make a decision on one of those today or not? Like, that could be the discussion. That's reasonable. That's the expectation. That's what I expected, at least. We don't need it to go to the policy committee for that reason alone, especially if we're going to end up having a committee of the whole, because in that committee, we were discussing it. But at this point, we don't necessarily have to send it to policy committee in order for the policy to come back and say, hey, look, we've got these different ones. We think that this one is the better one. We should all be able to have that conversation at the board table. So I'm just saying we don't have to send it there. Whatever the decision we end up making, that's fine, but we don't have to send it there. The idea that it has to go before the policy committee before it can come to this table is inaccurate and true. It does not have to do that. We don't have to do that. That's all I'm saying.
Trustee Hamilton, do you find value in this going to the policy committee?
I find value in us as a board diligently reviewing everything that has been put out around the youth representation, if that's the one, since that's the one that we're referring to. The value for me is in the resolution. I don't find value in it going to the policy committee. I find value in us having the discussion at the board table around these things and saying, hey, look, you know what, we might need some more time on this. This one is rose to the top. This one didn't rise to the top. Like, I find value in that. I'm not sure that, now, the policy committee could come back and bring like specific, we found these are items that we each individually think work better, but if we as board members are not looking at all the different options that are there, we won't be able to see that, hey, look, actually, I think this one would work better, and for why, and this is why. Like, I find value in that process. We all should be looking at it. Now, could we, as, policy committee, look at these individual ones? Yeah, we could. We could, bring back the ones that rose to the top, but we should all be doing that, our due diligence anyway. So again, I'm gonna be a no on those as far as going to the policy committee for those reasons. But if during our discussion, we end up voting to send it there, that's what happens.
And you are part of the policy committee, correct?
I'm very well aware of that. You know that. I have been for 4 years.
I just wanted to make that clear to the community. Any more discussion?
I am in favor of tabling this and sending it to the policy committee. And a recent example of this same thing is with the DEI policy. It was brought to this table by individual board members. It was discussed at this table. It went to the policy committee and came back for further discussion and approval. That is our practice.
Thank you, Trustee Simonetti. Trustee Dobies, any last?
Thank you, President. And to speak to what was just said, that's more or less what I was attempting to do with the policy to allow therapy dogs to bring it in front of the board, introduce it, and then refer it to the policy committee. I think that we are, I'll be voting against the amended agenda. I think that the agenda is to decide what we want to talk about at the meeting, and then those individual items, if we want to take action on those items, we should do so in discussing those items, but not discuss the entirety of all of those individual points before we actually have an adopted agenda. So.
There's a motion on the floor. We have a second. Discussion has taken place. All in favor of?
Can you clarify what the motion is? Since we have a couple, all this discussion, what are we actually voting on?
So I made a motion to amend the agenda and to send the youth representation at board meetings and the resolution affirming JPS as a welcoming district to all students, to send it to policy committee.
I'm not opposed to that. It's just a procedural thing that I think we should address those as they come up under old business.
All in favor of the motion that Trustee Acton just provided, say yay.
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-3. Superintendent's report. Jeff Beal.
Actually, good evening and welcome to,
Point of order, we still need to approve the amended agenda. We voted on the amendment, correct?
Thank you.
thank you very much.
At this time, can we approve the amended agenda based on Acton's motion, support, and the vote?
So I move that we accept the amended agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Superintendent's report.
All right. Well, welcome to March Madness, everybody. It is, going to be a great tournament for those boys in blue. And I'm going to actually open the superintendent's report and invite Monica Pierce and Jackson High School and Jackson Pathways to come forward and kind of give us an update on what's going on here at the high school and those great things that are taking shape.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Beal, for inviting us to present here at this board meeting. Tonight, we are going to begin our presentation with our some students from Jackson High School. Mr. Cunningham is their teacher and advisor, so I will have them come up and do their presentation.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Cunningham. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come share a little bit about what our marketing and business program is all about. I'm proud of you guys. Line up this way so you can see everybody. Yeah, that's better that way. They're single file line. I love it. I love it. So no, I'm proud. These are 5 of our awesome seniors. They all represent us in different capacities throughout our program. I'll kind of give you a little bit of an idea about what our program looks like. The few pictures on the screen. Really, a lot of what we do over the course of the day is connected to the program DECA, which a long time ago used to stand for Distributive Education Clubs of America. That's really what it means. It's kind of branched out over the years, and it's really to kind of prepare emerging leaders in business, entrepreneurship, management, hospitality, finance, and much more. We had 64 of our students participate at the district conference. 27 qualified for the state competition. So those are a couple of the different pictures on the left-hand side. And we had 3 state champions who now are continuing on to represent Jackson High School in Orlando, Florida at the end of next month. Tom V. Tiagi, Lennon Seagraves, and Tobin Warren. 2 of them are here to share a little bit about their role. And then our other 3 seniors, Grayson Dean, Isabella Ortiz, and Amarion Moore. They really are a true representation of like the full growth of what we want out of our program. Our program really starts at the marketing level, where we look at that as like our foundation course. We want them to be able to have the good tools that are necessary to be able to really kind of understand how to market, how to promote a product, how to price it properly, how to connect with your consumers, et cetera, et cetera. And the sell for our advanced program is all about doing marketing. It's really just hands-on at that point. Their experience is unique. We like to use the word like controlled chaos, a massive independent study, if you will, because they really kind of go on their own journey. And that's part of what they'll be able to kind of talk about here in a little bit about the doing marketing aspect of things. 3 major components throughout the course of the day that we handle, and you'll see our brands. The Cafe Orange, which we run right here out of the Media Center. We're open Tuesdays through Fridays. Mondays are classroom day. We also have our Viking store, which still functions under the same capacity, Tuesdays through Fridays, with Monday being the classroom day. And then we also run the Viking News. So if you've ever tuned into our Viking News 2 days a week, we also have students that make that possible. So that's what's great about the 5 of them that are standing here. They all are our leaders in different capacities. So Marion and T are big-time leaders for our Viking store. Isabel and Grayson play a large role in our Cafe Orange. And then Tobin, he does a few different things, but like the Viking News is the big thing that he does along with the Viking store. So I'm going to pass over the microphone to each of them, let them kind of tell about their experience, their 4-year journey here at the high school, and so forth. So thank you so much for the time.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amarion Moore, and I run the product and beverage through the Viking store. Through the last couple of years, I've learned many many skills that I wouldn't learn any other way. Through DECA, I've learned just confidence and just believing in what I've learned throughout these last couple of years.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanvi Tyagi, and I have been doing the marketing/retail program as well as the DECA program all 4 years. And I would say that it's built me up a lot as a person. So the retail program, it really teaches you kind of like, it gives you a foundation on the workspace, like the corporate workspace that most people go into. So, you know, the different teams, the collaboration between them, how tasks like are designated to each team. It really helps you like get a feel for that, so you don't feel like you're going in blind when you actually go into like that kind of workspace. And, you know, we do a lot of cool stuff with the Viking store. We do like many events, we do limited time products, and I think it's just a great way. Students always look forward to it. We always have sales every single day. And the DECA program, I think, benefits everyone, even if they're not going into like a specific business or entrepreneurial role or career, because there's people that are going in all sorts of different careers in that. But it just tells you a lot of like, it gives you a lot of like communication skills and just like builds you up better as a person. And that's why I think it's really, really important.
Hi, my name's Isabel. I've been taking this class for 4 years, and I've developed a lot of skills that I wouldn't have in any other classes, along with a lot of opportunities and experiences. And I oversee the Cafe Orange.
Hi, I'm Tobin. I've been in the marketing program for 3 years. I work on the clothing team for the Viking store, and I'm also a manager. And for the Viking News, I help produce, edit, and just put together all the episodes that are released out through the week. It's also my 3rd year in the DECA program, and I was representing the Viking store under the school-based enterprise event. Yeah, through all these, I've learned a ton of skills. I've gained a lot of confidence with like public speaking and all that, and I've built up a lot of connections.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Grayson Dean. I am a senior. I've been taking this marketing class for 4 years, and through the classroom side of things, it's really helped me find my way, you know, find my career path, find what I want to do with my life, find some focus. It's given me confidence. My freshman year, I would have never done anything like this. I wouldn't have came up and talked in front of all of these people. But really, the DECA program is where it comes, really shows what I've learned and how, like, my focus in life. I've done a lot of the business operations and management, what is it called, competitions. And it's really, that's what I plan to pursue in life. Mr. Cunningham has done an amazing job with us, and it really gives you some focus. It helps all the students in the class know what they want to do. And even if they don't particularly know what they want to do, it helps them find their way.
Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for our students?
I don't have any questions, but I am so proud of you guys. The reason is I known all these kids, including Lennon, who is not here today, for a long time. And the great thing about these guys are they're all part of tennis. Every one of them.
We do. We make sure, Sue, we give you your due as much as we can, for
Except the middle
sure.
one right there, Isabella, but her brother is a varsity tennis player for the last 3 years. So I am proud of you guys. And especially you, Mr. Cunningham. Thank you for all you do for the kids.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you for your support. And again, I mean, I can't take their credit. They work hard. They make me look good at the end of the day. Like, they're awesome kids. And we again, thank you. And as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to bring you a little, one of our special items from the Cafe Orange, our special, what we call our Viking smoothie. So you can see it has a nice little orange color. Has mango, strawberry, and coconut milk. So we'll pass it around. If you'd love to try some, we'd love for you to test it out. But thank you again so much.
Again, a real shout out to Mr. Cunningham and his whole crew, and we are looking forward to hearing how our kids do at nationals next month. So again, a great opportunity for those DECA students to be able to come back and share with us. Monica, it's still all yours.
All right, great job, Vikings. So hopefully you enjoy your smoothies when you have a chance. On our agenda, we have some points of discussion. We're going to talk about Minga, a software management system we use at Jackson High School, Jackson County Early College, our Viking M&M mentoring program, our PBIS system, and then I'll pass it to Mr. Slater, who is our MTSS coach, and he is going to talk about PBIS and pathways. All right, so some of you who attended Jackson High School can remember Miss Doan chasing folks through the hall, checking for hall passes. And in some sense, we still were using our passes, the paper passes, for students to get to and from classes and to different spaces. So we recently implemented a digital campus management system called Minga. Students are able to have digital student IDs, and they have digital hall passes as well. So this system is allowing us to access the software on our phone or on our Chromebooks. Students are able to create their passes in the classroom on their teacher's device that is set up for them, and then they can go to the bathroom or to the office, and it makes it just seamless for them to move around and for us to kind of keep track of them. It allows us to put things in place for them to not have, too many gatherings in spaces they shouldn't be instead of being in class. And it also provides an opportunity for us to implement reward systems in the management system. So we're able to implement our PBIS through Minga and different things like that. So it's been new for us, but it has been pretty smooth transitioning into, and we love it so far. So that is one great thing that's going on at Jackson High School. Another piece that is very important, and we'd love to thank Mr. Beal for encouraging all of us to get into this Jackson County Early College program, where our students are able to enroll when they start the 9th grade, and they can remain after their graduation. So they go into a 13th year if they are enrolled in the Jackson County Early College program, which we call JCEC. So here are our numbers, and right now we have 119 students. In the fall, we had 119 students enrolled, and they're showing 80% success rate, which is wonderful. My son is currently enrolled in the college courses. He has taken an English college course, and he's enrolled currently in the psychology course. So he's a junior. This has given him a great opportunity to be on campus in class. He comes home and tells me great stories of his interactions with the professor, with the other students, and the things that he's learning. So I appreciate that opportunity for Trey. And then I know we usually have here and there a student. In this class of 2025, we'll have a student who's graduating with an associate's degree from Jackson College along with her diploma. So we get excited about that as well. I know the clicker. All right, a new exciting program we have at Jackson High School is called our Viking M&M, which stands for Mentor and Mentee. The purpose of the Viking M&M is for seniors to support freshmen in feeling welcome, staying on track, and be successful. The seniors will achieve this by being role models and supportive partners throughout the school year. Our advisors are, and they can stand, I believe they are here, Janine Bush, Michelle Shelton, Mitchell Ernst, and Hannah DeCourt and Cecilia Said are also. So if we can give them a round of applause. They are doing a wonderful job working with our freshmen and seniors. We decided to start this as part of our Viking Collect Community Collective goals, and we want to ensure that here are some more pictures of them getting together. We wanted just to ensure that our freshmen, again, are transitioning into high school and able to get some information from our seniors to know kind of what to do, where to go, and how to be a Jackson High School Viking. So that is them together, making posters. Some of our goals: providing incoming freshmen with the guidance, encouragement, and sense of belonging, which this is doing for them. It also allows our seniors to be mentors and enhance their leadership opportunities, helping them build communication and mentoring skills. So we are looking forward to this program continuing, and we feel it will greatly enhance the school environment.
Hi, my name is Corey Slater, and I am the Jackson High School and Pathways MTSS building coach. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Supports, and that ranges from academic, attendance, or what we call our ABCs, attendance, and behavior, and course completion. So one of the things that we had to do this year was to implement what we call PBIS, Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. Now, this is, we know like some of our kids are involved with PBIS in the elementary schools. And, you know, we know at the high school and the secondary levels, this can be really different. It can, you know, it's not just given, sometimes we get rewards for tickets and things like that. We decided not to do that. We decided we reward our kids with our Viking values, which is to be respectful, responsible, and resilient. And one of the things that, as Mrs. Pierce said earlier, was we use Minga. We can reward our kids through that. And we can also have our teachers reward the kids. We send a Google form out every week, and teachers reward as many students as they would like. Their names appear on these slides. The slides are put on Facebook. The slides are put throughout our TVs in the building. Mr. Zesson reads them at lunchtime, and the kids like to know that, like, what was my name read for? So they really like that. One of the other things that we do with these is we do gift card giveaways with them. If their name was in, we draw, once their name is in there, we can draw their name out, give them a random gift card. We've done gas cards. We've done gift cards to the Cafe Orange, to the school store. We've done things for movies and things like that. So our kids are really starting to like this. And not only that but our kids are starting to see their names in a positive light. I think that's huge. And it creates a positive environment. Sometimes kids, they say, well, I didn't know that they saw me like that. And it's really been a good thing for our students. The other thing on there, it says Wharton Center shows. We have actually partnered with the Wharton Center. And as you know, what a great opportunity for our students to be able to go to the famous Wharton Center. And we've got the opportunity to send our students to, they call them one-act plays. And we've done 4. We've done Stomp. There was acrobats, and you can see a lot of different things there. But our kids have really, really enjoyed that. Once they get nominated for a Viking value, they're able to go on these if they want to. Now, some kids opt not to go because they have tests and things like that. They want to stay back, or college classes. But our kids, not only do they love to do this, but they love to go to the famous Brody Hall for lunch after. We take them on campus, and they really enjoy that. Actually getting them out of the I've been on a few of these. Getting them out of Brody is kind of a pain in the butt. But they really enjoy it. And I think we all come back about 15 pounds heavier. So that's been fun for our students. And they do a great job. They represent our school with just like a Viking should. Well, let me get to the next one here. Other great things, obviously, we just finished our winter sports season. Lots of positive outcomes there. Lots of state qualifiers, all conference members, academic all conference members. We finished very strong. Looking forward to a great spring season. That was last week was the first week of spring athletics, so that's great. Spring testing, unfortunately, that's come. And I say unfortunately, but it's just a lot of work. That's one of my jobs here is to coordinate spring testing along with Mrs. Murray. That will come up the second week after spring break. It's nothing like hit the ground running and we're testing. So our juniors will take the M-STEP, they'll take the SAT, and they'll also take the ACT work keys. And our freshmen and sophomores will take the PSAT 9 and 10. And our seniors don't have to test. They're probably the happiest group of all. Prom pop-up, obviously we have a prom pop-up at lunch. That's always exciting for our kids. We've also done instructional rounds for the teacher aspect of things. And really, as my job as the MTSS coordinator, really good feedback from our teachers in the core areas. Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Crum, they came through and they got to sit in classrooms with teachers, and teachers in their own subject areas got to go see the cool things and the awesome things that our instructors are doing with our children. And they got to debrief with each other. And sometimes we don't get to do that. Like sometimes we don't get that opportunity to sit down and say, man, you're awesome. Like you're doing great stuff. And not only do we get to do that, we found some great ideas that people have been kicking back and forth. So those have been very positive. We have some class of 2025 activities. I know I have a senior, looking proud father of a valedictorian. So I'm looking forward to this. We obviously, it's not up there. We have our Adopt a Senior baskets. I know that's been put on Facebook. That's Mrs. Newbaum wanted me to make sure that that was announced. Prom is April 26th. We will do our elementary walkthrough, which is one of, I think, the best things that we do in our district. So our elementary teachers can see the kiddos and how they've grown up to be grown men and women. That's on May 16th. Baccalaureate is on May 21st. Honors Night, May 22nd. Commencement, May 23rd. We're praying that it's outside. And then project graduation will be on May 23rd. Also on Facebook, project graduation is also doing a pizza fundraiser, so you have that available for you. And the next thing is not only my job is not only encompassing with Jackson High School, I do work with the Pathways teachers and the administrative staff. And I am speaking out on behalf of Mr. Clifton Foster, our administrator, and Alexis Hackett, our administrative assistant, and our wonderful staff at our Pathways program. It creates such a great opportunity for our kids to get the same thing but different. I think that's the best thing to say about it. And so I met with our Pathway staff, and they wanted me to share about 5 or 6 things that they're doing with our career and technical education, our CTE. And not only that, but we do have a Pathways, wonderful Pathways student that would like to share her experience with us when we're done with this. So our Pathways seniors participated in a manufacturing day event at American One Event Center. Over 50 local and state manufacturing businesses presented their company's employment opportunities available for our seniors upon graduation. Junior Achievement sponsored this event. The CTE department hosted a job fair here at Pathways. The event featured 6 local employers holding on-site job interviews to hire our students on the spot. Over 30 of our 78 students participated in this on-site interview process, and the employers included KFC, Subway, Little Caesars, Taco Bell, Wendy's, and McDonald's. Our Pathway students participated in a financial reality fair sponsored by the Community Choice Credit Union. Our students were given real-life simulations based on income levels and different occupations with various budgeting options designed to help them learn the harsh realities of planning a monthly budget and building a solid financial foundation. Over 40 of our students participated in this. For the second year in a row, our Pathways personal finance courses were able to offer the popular Dave Ramsey personal finance curriculum. The course materials are all-encompassing and user-friendly and include the new state of Michigan standards and benchmarks for the newly required personal financial credits needed for graduation. Also, our personal finance classes were privileged to have a weekly guest speaker from American One Credit Union. That speaker was former Jackson High School student and Ohio State University graduate Joseph Hines. Mr. Hines provided valuable personal finance materials and hands-on activities that also are integrated around the new state of Michigan personal finance standards and benchmarks. It was great to have Joe back in the building. Our co-op work release program currently has 15 Pathways seniors on early release from school working throughout the Jackson community. These seniors are earning their final high school graduation elective credits while gaining both valuable work experience and employability skills. Our co-op program has several sophomores and juniors currently working outside of the school day, earning extra high school credits, helping them to graduate early and gain valuable work experiences as well. And finally, our CTE department has a lot of upcoming events, and 2 of them are very important for them. These include a visit to the Lean Rocket Lab downtown and our annual Job Shadowing Day, in which our career students are placed with local employers to spend the school day job shadowing various Jackson businesses. And I think one of the things that listening to the staff talk about this yesterday and the day before was just what a sense of community we have here at Jackson. And for these businesses and these communities to reach out and help our kids, we're lucky. We're lucky to live in Jackson. We're lucky to have our kids have these people here. And not only that, but we're lucky to have a student come up and share her experiences with Pathways.
Ms. Earl.
Ms. Pierce. No, I'm okay. Hello, I am Uriah Earl. I am an honored student of Pathways. I have only been within Jackson High School since 10th grade. I've only been here for 2 years. And within my 2 years, I have spent most of that time in Pathways. Within Pathways, I have grown and learned very many logical skills for my life, what I want to do going forwards. And I would like to thank Miss Pierce. I would like to thank Miss Alexis Hackett. She has been my biggest encouragement during this entire time of Pathways. I have made very many friends, lost a couple, but that's what happens. I have definitely gotten out of my shell a lot more thanks to being in Jackson High School. I came to Jackson High School fearing for the worst, believing that I would get tormented, teased, and picked on like I have my entire life being in the Jackson School District. But when I got here, I noticed it was completely different. Everybody is very kind, welcoming, and caring. And especially within Pathways, I've made so many friends. Never thought I would have as many opportunities as I do have. And I now am a part of the co-op program, being able to leave school early and pursue my career in culinary arts one day. Yeah, I've had a really great experience here. Thank you, Ms. Pierce. I really appreciate you.
Ooh, she did a great job. All right, that is all we have. Do we have any questions before we leave the table?
That was an awesome information-packed presentation. Thank you. My only question is, what is prom pop-up?
Yeah, the prom pop-up, that's a great question, is when we have an opportunity for our students to go into our community closet and select dresses or suits, ties, shirts, all kind of attire. And we usually have a seamstress who comes in and does their alterations for free as well.
I just love how you teach real life skills. I love it. And your enthusiasm, Mr. Slater, is awesome.
I had a couple questions. I was adding them up, or not adding them up, writing them down as you all were speaking. The 13th year, can you just explain that a little bit more, how that works?
Yeah, so students are enrolled in, again, the JCEC program. When they are 9th, 10th graders, they have to do it before they get into the 11th grade. So after they're enrolled in the program, they are able to take college courses with us. And then the 13th year just means that they still are a Jackson High School student. They're enrolled with us. They can walk the stage. They won't receive the diploma until they finish that 13th year at Jackson College. So they have their senior year here. They walk the stage with the students with their cohort at graduation. Then they go on to Jackson College, and everything is still on Jackson Public Schools. And then when they finish their 13th year, they get their diploma.
They get their high school diploma then?
Correct.
Thank you. I have a couple. Sorry, you had some?
And maybe their associates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, good to know. And a couple more questions. The Viking Mentor and Mentee program, which seems amazing. Does every freshman get a mentor? Does every freshman get one?
So Mitchell?
Hi, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pierce. So we're working on that. That is the ultimate goal. We created this under the Viking Community Collective, hoping that it would blossom into something bigger. So right now we've been working really closely with the 9th grade principal and the 9th grade counselors to kind of see those that are faltering on those ABCs that Mr. Slater mentioned, like maybe attendance is an issue or maybe behavior. And we're trying to identify those that are slipping through the cracks before they slip through the cracks. And so that's how we've identified the freshmen. But I think our goal, and I think I speak for all of us, is to get started on next year as soon as we can and open it up to perhaps Viking Voyage when we have those 8th graders come up and explore the high school, that we offer this as an opportunity for every single one of them. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
does that answer
That's
your question?
awesome. I love it that, you all have chosen to, try to grab those that need the most support, to try to start with them first and then expand it out. I think that's absolutely amazing. I love that. A couple more questions for you. Or I'm not sure. This one is around the PBI, so maybe not PBIS, the Wharton Center. You said everyone, so all of the students that are in those 3 categories, they are offered the opportunity to go to the Wharton Center, and they can choose whether or not to, but every last one of them are offered that?
Anyone that was offered within that like time
Yeah.
period of that, yes.
That's awesome.
So yes, so we can do that. And,
Yeah.
and like we send that out to everybody. And, obviously we know the high school kids are like, I don't want to go, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. But the kids that do go it's phenomenal. They really, really enjoy it. And our teachers, they get to see the kids and they get to go do it. They've loved every one of them too as well. So
I'm hearing that, what I'm hearing from you, I think, is that one, aside from the names being called, which is this recognition, which I think is amazing, you know what I mean, and placed all these different places, they have the what is it called, where you pull a name?
we draw them like
Okay,
gift
yep,
card,
so
gift away.
it's only
Yep.
a couple people,
Yep.
because ideally that's just how that works out, but everybody also still gets to go if they want to the Wharton Center.
If they want to.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, last question for
Yes.
you, or for whoever. Miss Earl, thank you. It was great to hear from you tonight around Pathways. How many, I think it's good for the community to know how many students are in Pathways, to kind of place perspective on why the 40 or the whatever number you're giving is such a big number.
It's funny, I knew this question was coming tonight, so I actually wrote the enrollment down. I track enrollment all the time. So 10th graders, we have 24. This was the first year we added our 10th graders. 11th graders, we have 26. And then 12th graders, we have 28. So we have 78 total students. So when I say 40, we're talking a lot of them, and that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you both.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Any more discussion? Thank you so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Awesome presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Corey. I hope everybody got a good dose and could hear that not only do we focus a lot on character development, a lot on academics, a lot on workplace skills and helping our students find their path, whether it's into some measure of education post-high school, or into from the classroom into a career. So Monica, you and your crew, thank you very much, and an excellent job as always. And that concludes the superintendent's report for the month of March.
Thank you, Jeff. At this time, we'd like to make a motion. If I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Any discussion?
I'd like to pull off the minutes for separate consideration. Minutes.
All right, so we have a motion to pull out the minutes. That is 24-25-59 for consideration.
So I'd like to pull the human resources as well. I don't know if we need to do that separately or not, but we could add them. I'm not sure if we should or not, but I'd like to pull the human resources out.
The request has been made to also pull 24-25-60 human resources.
I'll support.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion to pull those two documents, say aye.
Madam President,
Yes.
the correct motion would be to approve of the consent agenda with those items removed, and then to discuss those individual items that have been pulled off the consent agenda.
At this time, we would like to approve the
there was a
agenda
motion.
with 24-25-59, the minutes being removed, as well as 24-25-60, human resources put for discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion. Any opposed? My apologies. Any opposed? Discussion. I thought they wanted to pull those for consideration later. Yes, the motion passed. Okay. All right.
Point of order. Are we gonna
They said no discussion.
take up the minutes and the other item that was pulled?
I believe those
both
items
of
get
those.
moved to under discussion items.
Action, they'll both be the first two under action.
Okay. So those two have been moved to the action items. At this time, we will move to agenda item number 8, citizens addressing the board. We have 2, Nicholas Thurston, followed by John C. King.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Nicholas Thurston. I live here in Jackson, Michigan. My address is 410 Van Buren Street, Apartment B. I live in Ward 5, downtown. I was a JPS graduate, and I wanted to talk about some of the policies and practices that have been coming out of JPS in recent years that are extremely disappointing and unlawful. The board has made international news for promoting anti-white philosophies. These things are unacceptable. And I don't care what the label is, if it's DEI or whatever the trend is or whatever terms people want to use. It is a form of racism. And so I heard the stories of people like Jeff Beal. I remember when he was hired here, I looked back at some of the news articles when you first got hired and you had a huge smile on your face and you were ready to put in a lot of hard work for the students here. And you were excited, you were passionate, and we're lucky to have a guy like you around. And I heard all these terrible stories and they didn't match reality. They didn't match the reality of people or places that I knew. And a lot of political activists were making weird demands on corporations, government agencies, colleges, schools. It was kind of like an all-out assault, not just in Jackson, but across the country. And so local people like me took action to send somebody to Washington to take a look at these policies and address what's happening, to preserve the reputations of people that put in a lot of hard work, and to do something about the radical extremists, the identity extremists that were saying these things and putting them into action, into law, and destroying people's lives and reputations for really no good reason. And I'm proud to say that we have got a federal DEI ban at the national level. Jackson College has also recently responded with a DEI ban, and hopefully the city of Jackson will reconsider their policies and practices as well. We'd also like to see JPS reanalyze what their priorities should be here to make JPS an inclusive campus like they say they want to. DEI doesn't do that. And there's been so many different names for policies and programs like this throughout the past. And all of them have done the opposite of what they said they were going to do. And we have lost an unspeakable amount of money to fraud, waste, and abuse for the last 100 years on diversity training, diversity programming. And if you look at the reality of it, what it has done is it has set people, especially minorities and also many women, it set people in a reverse course from where they were in the 1960s. We saw a lot of people becoming more similar, household sizes and family sizes, income, things like this were becoming more sort of normalized, and things were, your neighbor's house is probably about the same size as your house. Your neighbor's family is probably about the same size as your own family, and people worked together and did business together. They shopped together, and then suddenly, when all this federal funding came out, a lot of racial hostility, a lot of boys versus girls sort of competitions came out, and it caused significant harm to the point where a lot of these minority groups actually have went so far in reverse that they're looking at late 1800s or early 1900s, turn of the century growth in comparison to other demographics does the opposite. And we saw that DEI was doing the opposite. And so we looked for people that would ban it. It's something that I'm proud of. I see that you guys are considering a student government association here at JPS. I was the founding member, a founding member of the Jackson College Student Government Association. So I do know a little bit about these things. All of the DEI programs at Jackson College have been eliminated, and the Student Government Association has been the only one that survived. It's also been turned into a scholarship program for Jackson College students. And I'm not surprised by the decisions made at the board with the recent board meetings. And I'm proud to say that the Student Government Association is doing what they said they were going to do all those years ago. They have supported the students, they've supported the staff, they've helped to address local issues and sort of fill the gap that we saw many, many years ago. That was, there was an unmet need. People were not focused on academics, they weren't focused on performance. They're preoccupied with identity politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thurstein. John King, please.
Thank you. I'm John King. I live at 203 3rd Street here in the city, not far from the high school. Just a few minutes before 6 o'clock, for anyone that might have missed it, after 9 months at the space station, Butch and Sonny safely splashed down into the Gulf of America. So we all can have gratitude to Elon Musk for his company being able to go up and get them and bring them back to Earth. Speaking of Elon Musk, he's been trying to help the Trump administration make cuts. The news has been kind of portraying it as if by cutting the National Department of Education, that all kinds of disabled students and other students immediately are being adversely affected. One thing that, and I don't think they probably intended to do it, but there was one person with the National Department of Education, her sole job, she was an attorney, was working with DEI and, kind of pushing that. With different students, telling students you're either an oppressor or you're the oppressed. Your skin color is what really matters. So when I seen that, I thought, great, as Elon Musk did with the chainsaw, there's a lot of that just needs to be cut out. That goes along with here at JPS. As the previous speaker mentioned, DEI needs to be cut out altogether as President Trump's executive order had. So politics over the last, since the pandemic, the last 5 years, a lot of those extra funds, unfortunately, were to push a lot of politics. Now that those funds are going down, we need to take the politics out like DEI. So that will, to balance the budget, that needs to be done. they'll make it much easier to just get rid of the DEI department and everything like that. Jeff Beal, you know, as far as his severance package, it's kind of a case I thought, boy, you know, that's kind of relief, you know, to see him be able to, I mean, it's been more than a decade, which is a lot of years for the normal superintendent traditionally, but when you figure in the politics of COVID, the Black Lives Matter and everything else, DEI that's being forced down by a certain particular party, you know, it just, I mean, it's almost like maybe could have doubled the years, that seems like. So I'm happy for him that he's at a point that he can just, you know, retire. Hopefully he gets the good severance package and everything like that. And hopefully we can get someone nearly as good as him, if not better. That would be great. But so I want to thank him for the years he put in trying to make JPS the best school possible. And hopefully when you get the turn to replace him, you will look at things other than skin color. As Martin Luther King said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Please make Dr. King's dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. William Hastings.
So I'd like to kind of begin my remarks tonight with just sort of a concept I'd like for all of you to keep in mind as I speak. I'm going to come back to it. And that concept is, which has been used by members of this board before, is the idea of performative policies. And what really a performative policy could probably best be described as going through the motions. It could be described as sort of engaging in a dog and pony show instead of addressing important issues of great substance to the school district. So I'm going to start off with a news headline. If you hadn't seen this, this was in MLive today. It was just published this afternoon. I believe the author is here. Hey, Mitchell. So just to read the first 2 paragraphs, if you haven't been following this story, Jackson College trustees said they made the controversial decision to end support for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to preserve nearly a third of the school's annual budget. The roughly $20 million the college stands to lose accounts for about 30% of its annual budget, said a trustee. And another trustee was quoted as saying concerning the decision, quote, "It all came down to simply keeping our doors open." So as we've kind of already established, JPS gets about $5 million in baseline federal aid every year. You have less than 5,000 students. That's about $1,000, potential $1,000 hit for every student in the entire district, every kindergartner, every second grader, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, junior, senior, all of them. And you are really whistling past the graveyard at this point by failing to repeal what is an illegal policy, okay? Because right now, the University of Michigan is having to stand in the fire. I believe, is it Spring Arbor Valley University is standing in the fire as well. So you are creating an enormous hazard that could affect your own budget in the upcoming school year, which starts just 5 months from now. So just to be clear, that the DA policy that was passed was really the worst of all worlds. Number one, it is performative. It was not a serious policy. It was objected to by 2 of the 3 members of the board who served on the policy committee. Okay, I believe this this policy was crafted to benefit Ms. Hunt politically. It's sort of the equivalent of bringing home like a macrame craft from summer camp. It's something she's supposed to wave around and say, look what I did, look what I did. It had no effect and never would have any effect on the very serious issues addressing this district, to wit. So we all like hearing about the positive things going on, and there always are positive things going on within the four walls of this building and all the buildings in the district. But something that never seems to be discussed at these meetings is you have a crushing problem with student absenteeism. So approximately 40% of your students are missing, or actually, excuse me, there's different stats, but you're now starting to push well into the upper 40s of the percentage of your students across the district who are missing a minimum of 18 school days a year unexcused. The average of the kids who are missing, who are in that chronically absentee category, they're missing an average of 40 days of school a year. That's 8 weeks. That'd be like if a kid didn't show up the first day of school, the second day, the third day of school, then they showed up maybe like 3 days before Halloween. That's not a plan. That needs to be addressed. That must be addressed. Tallying it all up, there's about 172,000 days a year in JPS of unexcused absences, which comes out to 498 school years, 180-day school years, 498 years that are missed every single year. So it's really time. I think you just have to decide. This is a fork in the road. You have to say, are these students educable or not? If they are, please stand up and act like they are. Number two, do we have compulsory public education for a reason? Is it something you support? If it is, stand up and act as if you do. Okay. This is a major problem. The absenteeism has gone up 50% since 2019. That's a lot. Okay. And I strongly encourage you to embrace this and address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. At this time, we will move to our discussion items. 24-25-63, custodial services RFP. Marcus?
All right, good evening. About a month ago, the district put out a request for proposal for custodial services for the district. Just a little bit of background, the last time this was done was back in 2019. These are for a 3-year contract with an option for 2 one-year renewals, which the district exercised, so their contract is up at the end of this year. The district held a pre-bid meeting and walkthrough on February 28th, and there was an enormous response. We had 14 vendors show up for that meeting, which was amazing. Last week, we had a bid opening and received 11 responses from the 14 vendors. At this time, we are in the process of reviewing all those bids and vetting them, getting clarifying questions answered, and we will bring a recommendation to award a new contract to the winning vendor at the April board meeting next month.
Any questions? Trustee Dobies?
Thank you, Madam President. And I reviewed our purchasing policy and didn't see this, but maybe this is an old form, but on the bid tabulation, there's check boxes for bid security, familial relations, and then Iran sanctions.
Correct. Those are some standard boilerplate things that we cover through all the bid processes, whether it's through bond, through this, and not just here at JPS, but throughout the state and nationally.
Can you move your mic a little closer? I got
Trustee Hamilton.
Thank you, Derek, for asking that question, because I would like to know, you said this, this is just basically happens all the time. You just still kind of give a brief, maybe paragraph of what each of these mean, that you were considering in each of these. What's that mean? The bid, security, familial relations, Iran sanctions, like what in the world?
Sure. So the bid security is, in the bids, the companies are required to submit bid security, basically promising or solidifying their bid, right? So they can't go back on their awards or whatever. They're validating that everything in their bid they're going to live up to. The familial relationship just states if there is or is not any conflict of interest is the best way to put it. Any employees of that company that have a connection or conflict with the district. So it's a certification form, whether they do or do not. With the Iran sanctions, that's a national one where companies are required to certify that they comply with all of the terms of any sanctions towards that country.
Is that just because there's federal funds
I think it is a federal requirement of the bidding process.
That's new, or no?
That's not
It's
new.
been there.
It's to my knowledge since I've been in
Okay.
the industry.
2 more questions for you. Who do we currently have? Are they on this list?
EnviroClean is our current vendor.
And then when you come back, I don't know if you're doing this or not, but can you bring us like your top 3 and the reasons why?
We
I don't
are
know-
going to, yep,
plan
we
to
are
do that?
going to narrow down to our top 3 or 4 vendors and then a deeper dive, conducting reference checks, clarifying questions, things of that nature. So we'll bring you our final list with recommendations of why we've selected the vendor that we've selected. It was our initial hope that we could bring that tonight, but just due to the overwhelming response and the amount of material to go through, it just wasn't possible.
So you'll bring us at least 3, you said?
Correct.
The next question for you, EnviroClean, so was their contract just ending? Is that why we took this RFP out?
Correct. The last time was 2019, and then we exercised the 2 one-year renewals, so this would be the end of that period.
Do we ever do any type of evaluations or surveys of like how well, the staff appreciates or likes or does not like EnviroClean? Have we done that? Do we do that?
They do every month. EnviroClean sends out surveys to each building for the building principals to fill out and send back, almost like a customer satisfaction.
Can you include at least the summary of that in your, because if
Sure.
they make the top 3, I would like to see what the summary
And
of
that
that is.
is in all of the bids. They do have some sort of customer satisfaction thing as part of the RFP.
Okay, and you'll include that too?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I have a question. In the familial relations column, the first one is a dash, the rest are checks. Is there a difference there?
Yes, the first one did not include the familial relationship certification in their bid. We could not find it.
And then can you maybe tell us a little bit about what your process is to vet these?
So right now, what we're doing with facilities and custodials, we're creating a spreadsheet so we can compare everybody in one area, very similar to the process we used when we identified our construction manager last year, right? We'll pull out all of the relevant information, pricing, some of the stuff that means the most to those departments here. We'll have that all on one spreadsheet, so then we can compare and go down and really drill down into the information in the bids, as opposed to we have boxes of binders and bids to just read through, and information's on different pages, and really just to get it all in one place to see it a lot easier. So our process is, we're setting that up right now. Our goal after spring break is to return and be able to get into the information on that spreadsheet.
Trustee Dobies.
I'd be interested in saying, I know we have a local policy around purchasing. I'd be interested to see which ones are within Jackson County and which ones, there's maybe not a good way of evaluating this other than if they have, if they're unionized and they have some sort of contract or something, but maybe evaluating,
If it's in their RFP, we can try to weed that out. There's a lot of information in all of those, including where their corporate offices or local field offices may be located.
Great.
One more question for you. Do you all assess whether or not they are hiring locally? Derek's question just made me think of if they're local or not, but even if they're not, do you assess, how many people they're hiring from locally as part of that, spreadsheet? Is that part of it or no?
I don't think that's part of the RFP requirements, is where they're hiring from. My assumption, again, is it's easier to hire and use local workforce.
That makes sense. I would love to also, just to add some support to what Derek is saying, know if they're local or not.
No further discussion? Agenda item 24-2564, the Taher Annual Contract Renewal. Marcus?
All right, so this is something that we bring every year. I'll back up, every 5 years we bid out food service, and last year we had gone through that RFP process. And each of the 5 years, and this is mandated by the state, the contract must be approved annually, even though we've approved a 5-year contract already. Within that, what we're basically approving is the administration management fee for Taher, the food service management company, and the guidelines are it's the lower of a flat rate of 3% or the CPI or consumer price index for the month of December of the current school year, which happened to be 3.1% this year. So 3% is the mandated increase that we're allowed to give the food service company, which is basically their overhead for some expenses or administration, management fees, and district managers, things like that. Again, this is an annual thing we're bringing for discussion this month. We again bring it back next month for approval. All of this, all of these are paid for through the food service fund, not the general fund. So again, that's a self-supporting fund on its own.
Thank you, Marcus. Any questions?
The food service fund, and this is a little off topic, but not quite. Does that get funded from the federal government? Is that where that money comes from?
Part of that is yes.
So we might be looking at some issues around that potentially in the future?
Right now, we have not heard of any change to the federal funding for food service at this time.
And food service, and this is a dumb question, but I like to ask all my questions. Food service, the money around that the food program, as far as like the students, the federal funding, that's the money that funds.
That would be our reimbursement claims from the meals that we serve in the district, the free and reduced, the CEP programs. So we would submit meal claims every month, and that's the federal funds that we receive back.
So we are paying attention to that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we see some
Correct.
stuff. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Any other questions? At this time, we will go to 24-25-59, and that is the minutes from the consent agenda. Mr. Dobies?
Move approval of the minutes.
This was the...
Support.
Discussion. Discussion.
Okay. Yeah, I had some questions. So inside here is the Finance and Facilities Committee. It lists members present. Who is a member of the Finance and Facilities Committee?
Marilyn, yes, currently we have Marilyn Acton, Trustee Acton, and Trustee Simonetti.
Okay, and there's a chair.
I don't know that a chair has been designated.
I believe that would just
Currently,
be
Marcus
my
leads
committee
those.
with the 2 board members as representatives.
Okay.
Any more discussion, Mr. Dobies?
Nope. I didn't know if the committees had actually been appointed yet, or if these were from previous appointments, or how that worked.
So this was from the January meeting when all the committees were presented and we were asked to let President Hunt know what we might be interested in. That's where these came from.
And then
Gotcha.
those names were put forth to Michelle, and then the final spreadsheet was sent back out through board correspondence.
Yeah. So is that the committee list? Because the header at the top of it said, these are the people that are interested in that committee.
My understanding was that we finalized that list. We can take a look at that, trustee Derek. Any other discussion regarding the minutes? We will make sure that that final list is provided to the board. And if chair, if board members need to be represented on that list as a chair, we'll make sure that that is communicated based on interest. We have a motion, we have a second, we've had some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to the minutes? Motion carries. Agenda item 24-25-60, and that is the human resources item that was pulled from the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve this item.
Support?
Support.
Any discussion?
Yes. I would just like a summary on this. I see that we have this summary here, but I would like more, just another summary for the community. I'll have some questions as well, but I want a summary first. Is that you, Jeff, or somebody else?
Yeah, I can certainly summarize. So we offered, as you know, last month, the board approved a $15,000 amount as for a voluntary severance agreement. That agreement was drawn up for 3 different groups by our attorney, Brendan Beer. And we had active participation across all 3 groups. I think there's a total of 37 folks that took advantage of it. A number of those folks will fall under positions that will have to be replaced. I mean, this is obviously a cost-cutting effort to reduce our staff and reduce the amount of potential layoffs. I don't have that number today because obviously we're going to still go back and take a look at, I'm going to say this candidly, like how many special ed teachers? I got a number of math teachers here from the high school, so obviously we'll have to replace some of those. And then we'll look at the rest of our staff to see who has certifications that can be used to backfill some of those positions. And once we know that, we'll be able to have a better understanding of how far into our deficit for next year this ate away at and what our layoffs will look like moving forward.
All right, thank you. A couple questions. I got about 4 so far. The ones that because you had mentioned before, and you might have just said it now, but you had mentioned that we potentially might have to hire some of these folks back. Is that correct?
Not these folks back. All right, so again, we're very careful on that. So the state of Michigan requires a bona fide termination, which means we cannot have any discussion with any of these employees about potentially returning. In fact, our severance package very clearly states they cannot return to JPS. If we offered a potential for them to return at this time, that might look like what we're talking about is that would violate the spirit of the law with ORS. So we won't put any of our people in harm's way that way. There are a number of folks on here who coach or who sub or things along those lines, and those pieces may yet still be available. But at this point, the severance package is exactly as written. There's no intent to hire any of these back. We could have to hire to fill those positions. So we have a number of special education teachers who are leaving. We're going to have special ed teachers. We have a number of math teachers that are leaving. We're going to have to employ math teachers. So we will have to refill some of these positions, even though, but it probably won't be with the same people who were leaving them.
Thank you. I distinctly remember you saying we would hire some of these people back. So thank you for clarifying that we actually won't be hiring any of them back because we can't legally, it sounds like.
That's actually what the terms in the severance package that you got last month, that's exactly what it said.
Couple questions for you. So when we are, the new people that we're hiring in, obviously we're hiring them at a lower rate, which is why we did this whole severance package thing. Because they're coming in.
To the collective bargaining agreement, yes.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
They would be subject to the collective bargaining agreement, yes, but the goal would be to lower the salary hit to the general fund.
Well, help me understand, because it sounds like okay, they're gonna be subject to the collective bargaining agreement, meaning that they might be hired at the same rate that these folks, so they're not gonna be hired at the same rate?
No, the collective bargaining agreement would prohibit them from being hired in.
Okay,
at
that was
step
my
12.
question.
Yeah.
That answers it. Thank you. A couple more questions for you. With all of these folks leaving, what concerns, do we have for the budget at all? Concerns or benefits? What are we looking at? Obviously, we're getting some benefits, but what's it look like?
Well, and Marcus will talk to the
And,
budget
and
here.
Jeff, sorry, let me just add to it, because I want the part that I also wanted you to address. The 15,000 that's going out to all these folks, how is that impacting us? How's it balancing?
Yeah, so again, and I'll use a couple of different examples on how it's hitting us. So we'll take there were a couple thresholds that you had to hit. For administrators, it was 95,000. For teaching staff, it was 81,139, I think. And then for non-unit, it was 70,000. And for folks who take the buyout, the goal is obviously if you took somebody making 81 and we could hire them in if we had to replace that teacher, we'll use that math teacher. You exit a math teacher making 81, we hire a math teacher making 50. So there's a $30,000 difference. We're going to spend 15 of that 30 right now to do the buyout. We're going to immediately save 15. But the legacy cost is that we're not on the hook for 81 year after year after year. We're now on the hook for that 50 and then rolling. So it does absolutely lower. And then for folks who are not being replaced, so then we obviously will pay out the 15,000, but then we're going to save the remainder. So again, I'm going to use that same 81. You subtract the 15,000, and then all of a sudden we're going to save the 66,000 the first year, and then the full 81 every year thereafter.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 24-25-65, the 24-25 budget amendment. Marcus.
All right, so as everybody knows, we amend our budget 3 times throughout the year. We amended in December, so this would be our second amendment here in March. In December, we first look at our revenues as we have our state budget, we have our student enrollment numbers in. We try to get as many expenditures caught up in that as well. We take another look at expenditures and any changes to revenue this time around. We did present this in summary form at the Facility and Finance Committee. The long and short of it is there's been a little bit of change, but we are pretty much on track from where I projected us in December. We did receive a little bit more state revenue than in December. Some funds have come in for one-time retirement pass-through money, which has a matching expense with it. So our revenues are higher, so our expenses, they kind of went dollar for dollar in some of those categoricals. We also had some prior year adjustments, additions to revenue, as well. So at this time, you can see we're about $30,000 better today as far as the budget looks. Of course, that will change again, and we'll take another look at it in May. We'll have a much better look at where our expenses will wind up. We're not quite through the season of paying our winter utilities, gas, and things like that, so we're still estimating what those final bills are like, and as an example, things of that nature. But for the most part, most of our categories are tracking to where they were in December.
Thank you, Marcus. Any discussion? Oh.
President, I'll move approval of the 2024-25-2 budget amendment as presented.
Support. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Marcus. 24-25-66, JHS Summer Painting, Marcus.
All right, and again, we talked about this last month. Over the last few years, we've been working on painting this building, starting from the top floor down. You know, we mentioned both last month and at the Finance and Facility Committee meeting, to do the whole floor the last couple of years has run us about $80,000 a year. In light of the uncertainty right now and budget, but also recognizing the need to keep moving forward with work in the district that just does not stop. We're looking to slow that and break up a floor into 2 different summers. So I think the amount for this one is $39,225, which would encompass the hallways and staircases on the ground floor. And then we would look to do the classrooms the following summer and then move back to the first floor to complete the building. It's just a measured approach, keeping the budget in mind, but also recognizing the work that still needs to continue on.
Move approval of the quote from Lenco Painting, the amount presented.
Support.
Any discussion?
I'll support this also, just because it's going to be spread over 2 fiscal years.
Okay, a couple questions for you. The money for this, which pot is it coming from?
This is budgeted in our general fund. It's already incorporated into the budget amendment that you saw most recently, and it is something that I planned for last June, although I planned for a larger amount. And again, like Ms. Trustee Acton had mentioned, that 40,000 is spread over this fiscal year and next, just based on when they finish the work. I think the last 2 years, it's been about a 60-40 split. So about 40% of that cost we would see this year and 60% if everything holds true on the next budget.
So 2 more questions for you. One, do you have a copy of this in front of you?
Yes.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I see 39,225 up at the top, and I see 29,225.
Yeah, I saw that. I think the 29
It's
is
just a typo?
it's a 39. If you look on the second page, there's the corridors and the stairways are
Just a
broken
typo,
out.
is that what it is?
It's just a typo,
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to confirm that. Okay, the other thing, did we, so again, the general fund is where we pay our teachers from and a lot of other stuff that we do. You want to give me just a quick summary of what we do in the general fund?
The general fund is just that. It's for general operations of the district. So it's salaries, benefits, all the maintenance repairs that the district performs, painting, custodial, cleaning, all of that, except for food service, right?
And our electric buses, they got their own pot,
That's shared between 2 different pots of money.
not the general fund though.
Partially, yes.
Oh, I learned something new tonight. Okay, good thing I was asking questions. Okay, last question for you. Last month, I was asking about the condition of these spaces. So I heard you right. I mean, I heard you clearly. I think that the ground floor, where it's pretty gray at, like literally gray, that's the floor that we're trying to change to these orange and nice
Not
colors?
to the orange. So if you remember, we started the 3rd floor. We did all the hallways and classrooms, brightened it up with we matched the paint that we had been using in the bond projects throughout the district. We moved on to the 2nd floor last summer, and then we made the decision that ground floor is so visible, we thought we would hit that next and then go back and finish 1st floor last.
So right now, we're talking about the ground floor, but not the gray areas. We're talking about the stairwells, not
The hallways and the stairwells, and then the following summer, the classrooms on ground.
Okay, so the last question I have for you, did we look at the condition, and could this be something that we could wait on?
Yes and no, we can always wait on it, but since we've started the building, it makes more sense to finish the building, because if you wait on it, by the time we get back to do it, the floors that we've done, then they'll also be mismatched, and you'll have a building right now where half the building's been repainted and half the building has not been painted, and I don't know when.
Last question for you, maybe. How often do we paint?
I don't know. I know we paint when we're allowed to through bond if we touch a room. As far as general repair maintenance, it would just be as needed, depending on the situation and district.
So these walls haven't been painted in a long time, the ones you're about to...
The hallway's correct. Unless Mr. Beal knows, I couldn't tell you the last time.
No, again, you're exactly right. As needed, most of the immediate painting really dives into classrooms or someplace where we've got a high need for a variety of reasons, and we pick those apart piece by piece. The bond took care of a lot of spaces that we were able to use bond dollars for. You can't just use bond to paint. If you remodel a space, you can use bond dollars to do that. And so the 2018 bond did a lot of the work, but it can't touch the areas that you're looking at here.
Thank you both. I'm gonna be a no on this just because I'm not comfortable with all the cuts and stuff that's coming up. I understand, and thank you for, it makes sense what you're saying, but I still just not super comfortable with it yet.
Any more discussion? If not, motion to support this agenda item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
24-25-67, bus purchase. Marcus presenting.
All right, so, and again, we brought this last month, both to this board and to the Finance Committee. As you know, from our EV project, where we transitioned the majority of our diesel fleet away into EV, we did hold back a handful of 4 diesel buses for those longer field trips where there's just not infrastructure for EV or propane buses. So we need to have a few on hand for athletics or whatever field trip or need there is that's out of Jackson or JPS boundaries. We would feel more comfortable with having a 5-bus diesel fleet, only for the fact that if a bus goes down, needs maintenance, something breaks, we want to be able to provide transportation for those students for those field trips. We have received a quote from Holland for an off-lease bus, I believe a 2018 model number with fairly low miles, as we've done in the past, for approximately $55,319. And again, this purchase would be made with extra bond funds, so would not be part of the general fund. And as you know, through the 2018 bond, we were replacing buses periodically with those allowable bond funds.
Madam President, I'll move approval of purchase of a diesel bus from the Holland Bus Company in the amount of $55,319 as presented.
Support.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion.
Discussion.
So I'm in favor because we're using bond dollars that are left over.
We normally keep 5 of these buses in our fleet, sounds like. That's what we'd like to have.
That's what we would like to have, just knowing the number of buses that we would have at the most use at the same time. If everybody, historically that would be going on an athletic or whatever field trip out of JPS, what's the most number of buses we've used? It's about that 4 or 5 number, so we would like to stay in that range.
Because before we had all the diesel buses, so we didn't really necessarily.
We had 21 more diesel buses.
Okay. One more question for you. Rates, this quote from Holland, did we get any other quotes from anywhere else? I don't know if diesel buses are just like, on every corner or not, but did we get other
We
quotes?
did not. Our entire fleet is through Holland. They're a Bluebird type bus, and that's for consistency, for parts ordering, some of the buses look different, they feel a little different, just to have that consistency. We try to stay as simple and efficient as possible.
And Holland's the only one that sells these diesel Bluebird buses.
Holland is the manufacturer of Bluebird.
So Bluebird is the one, help me understand that.
So Holland is a dealer, Bluebird is the manufacturer, like Chevy, right? So it would be the name brand.
And the only way we can get this Chevy is from Holland? Is that what we're saying? And so that's only.
Correct.
But there are no other places that could offer.
There's other
us-
manufacturers,
like
but
we
they're
don't
not
have Ford
Bluebird.
plants that'll
There's-
give us a Chevy. There's not.
Correct. There's
Okay.
Bluebird is Bluebird, and Holland is our dealer.
So basically, I just want to know, do we shop around? And is that possible?
We have looked at other styles of buses when we've replaced them over the last few years. Sticking with the same one, just again, makes the operations more efficient and consistent for things down the road.
And this was the least expensive one that we could. I mean, we don't necessarily always want to be least expensive, but I'm just looking at the money right now. So is this our best choice at this time?
It is. Just for comparison, a brand new bus would be probably close to about $125,000 today.
Okay, thank you.
Minimum.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more discussion on the bus purchase? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Marcus. 24-25-68, the non-unit salary schedule. Jeff will be presenting on this.
All right. So every year we bring forward the non-unit salary schedule. A couple things, and I know Marcus kind of updated this. I think this number that's on the item from last month, 95,517, slightly smaller, Marcus?
Correct. The updated impact to the next year's budget is $90,614. That takes into account some non-unit folks that have accepted the buyout. We weren't able to look at that number until the buyout period ended on Friday, end of day, and the board packet was already released at that time. So it is about a $5,000 to the good.
And there are a number of individuals on here that, or positions on here that will be evaluating based on some of those folks that have taken the voluntary severance package. And so we'll be evaluating how those positions kind of shape up. So there could yet be additional savings. But this represents a COLA increase. Is that 2% increase across the board? It's the same one we've done in the past. It's the same one that every other unit has received. So there are a couple of exceptions on here. Jessica Carter is due for a raise associated with her anticipated additional duties with my separation. So as I step out, we will anticipate that Jessica Carter will assume the assistant superintendent role accordingly. And then we made a commitment to Kelly Crum when she came on, challenged her very intentionally and said, look, you're going to have to do more for JPS. And so we challenged her to go out and earn her school administrative certificate. She did that last, we'll get this wrong, October, November. And so we've been kind of sitting on this one to make this raise official until this time, because this is our cycle, but she certainly has done what that looks like. And we anticipate Kelly, as you've already heard, taking on a variety of different roles. She started immediately in the fall with McKinney-Vento and with our homeless and with our EL population. So we have no doubt that Kelly's work as Executive Director of Pupil Services will continue to grow. So those are the two outliers on the sheet, but it is a recommendation of administration that we approve these salary changes as presented.
Motion to approve the.
Move approval of the non-unit salary schedule.
Support?
Support.
Discussion.
So since we're running a deficit and it's taxpayer money, I'm going to be voting no on this.
Trustee Hamilton.
Did we already approve this stuff at some point? Do we have a legal obligation to, like, is there a contract or something that's already in place for these raises?
So for folks that are sitting out there, minus the two that I spoke of specifically, everybody has already got a contract for next year. We run these folks for a contract for 2 years. The raises associated with Kelly and with Jessica were very specific to additional duties and positions that they're taking on, and again, kind of pre-commitments. But the contracts for everybody else on that list is already in place for next year with the same 2% raise. It's much like when you do mine. You're not really talking about next year. You're talking about when you add a year to the end. Is the way we do it.
So we're voting on 26, 27, 27, 28. What is that? What are we voting on?
The raise will go into effect, yes.
Which one was that? 26, 27? What is it?
So
Both of them are?
Well, they're already on schedule for next year, so we're set to add a 2% raise for them for next year, and then we're adding it for the following.
Okay, so we've already voted on next year's, they'll get that, and we're voting on 26, 27 for the 2%, but we're also at this time voting on this $40,000, the 20,000 between the two of them. What's Kelly's title?
Executive Director of Student Services.
And then Jessica's gonna be Assistant Superintendent of HR? Is that what her title will be?
I think it's Executive Director of Human Resources.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say for anyone considering voting no, that unfortunately for this group of employees, they happen to be the last ones coming to the table. And all of the other units have been to this table and been approved already. And I don't think it's fair that we pick out this one group because all of a sudden we're more aware of a budget deficit to say they don't get a raise. It's not their fault that they're the last ones at the table, and they deserve it every bit as much as every other employee in this district.
Jeff, can you, so if this is the last group, is there a phase in which the other ones are?
Yep, so we approved the contract for the teachers last fall, and we're currently entering bargaining for our TAs, paras, and administrators. So that will take place this summer, and their contracts expire this year. The older contracts expired last year. So yes, we tend to run 2- and 3-year contracts. It's hard right now to kind of predict more than a year or two. So, but this group doesn't have anybody to represent them. I'm it. I hate to say it this way. Every other group is an association. They're represented by the MEA or some factor of leadership. This is a non-affiliated. That's why we call it the non-unit group. And so they really have the least representation to be able to bargain for them in this capacity. So we bring them, again, like I said, every March. You'll see it in February and again every March. And this group has been pretty consistent. You know, our salaries increases are not anything other than those COLA increases across the board. Did I answer that question?
You did. So is there anything, so you say the COLA increases, is there anything, any language in the increase? Has anyone ever not received an increase based on the COLA language?
Well, there's no COLA language. We simply allow a 2% increase. That's what the raise is that 2%. That's not cost of living. So we already know that COLA is already behind the cost of living. We're not keeping up with inflation. It's simply what we've been able to do for a number of years is be able to commit to that 2%. And our folks out there rely on that 2%. It's hard because this is a group of administrators or non-unit administrators in some cases. There's secretaries in this group. There's tech folks in this group. This is not one person or one group, as Cheryl said. So it's hard to say that, but every one of them is facing the increase in cost of eggs that you and I are facing. Every one of them is facing the increase in costs of daily life, and so that's how we do the COLA increase, if you will. I would love to be able to say we could give them more, but that's how we have traditionally bargained this particular group of employees. And again, it's not just the folks sitting over here as senior cabinet. If you looked at the list, that's a small fraction of the 24 people that we're actually talking about here.
When would that increase go into effect?
July 1.
Does Derek have questions? Is that why your mic is open? Okay, I do have.
Trustee Hamilton?
Thank you. Another question. So I'll be supporting this. While I will not support, painting the walls at this time because of our budget, because I do, in my opinion, because humans, matter more than walls. For that reason, I'm going to be supporting it, even though we're at a deficit and facing a deficit. We got all these folks who've retired, and whether or not it's going to balance out, we'll see. We're at $5 million that we, are in a deficit. So these 37 folks, 4 or 5, whichever it is, these 37 folks who have retired, you know, or taken the severance package clearly are not going to get us where we need to be in that space. But you know, in my opinion, if the boat goes down, maybe it'll go down with us being a little better paid. Maybe we have some time to save up. So I'm in favor of supporting humans getting the pay that they deserve based on the, you know, education that they've received and the work that they'll be doing. Because again, if the boat goes down, we'll just all go down together, and you know. So yeah, I'll be in support.
Any more discussion? Michelle, can we do a roll call for this agenda item, please?
Ms. Hamilton? What are we doing? We just doing a roll call on this, vote on this?
So yes, so we've had discussion. We've approved a motion. All those in favor of this agenda item?
We want to do a roll call on it?
Yes.
Okay. I had one more question that, you know, before we do it, if we could. The teacher salaries, are they tied to enrollment?
Yes, there is a provision within the contract for future raises based on enrollment. So the answer to that question is yes.
Are these folks, these non-unit folks, packages tied to enrollment? Is there a reason why?
Once again, they're not tied to the same, they don't have a salary schedule the same way that the teachers have a salary schedule. So in our salary schedule, steps are not tied to enrollment. There's 3 different pay schedules, if you will, in our teacher contract for each year. So the first year, everybody got their raise and the step. Everybody gets their step next year. We're waiting on final numbers to be able to determine if those folks will get their raise and the step next year. But everybody who's able to step always is going to step accordingly.
Thank you. I'll probably have more questions around that eventually, but my answer is a yes as far as the vote. And thank you for letting me ask that question while we were voting.
Yes.
Michelle?
No.
Ms. Acton? Mr.
Oh.
Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Dobies? And Ms. Hunt?
Yes. Motion passes. At this time, we will move to 24-25-69. And I am going to ask that Superintendent Jeff Bill be excused.
Excuse myself. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Madam President, can we have a brief 5-minute recess?
Yes. Motion to have a recess has been asked.
Support.
Support. All in favor? All right. We'll take a 5-minute recess. All right, I want to thank everyone that is still sticking around with us for the remainder of our meeting. At this time, we are going to go to agenda item 24-25-69. That is a superintendent vacancy. And before we entertain this conversation, I just want to introduce Debbie Stair, who's here from Michigan Association of School Board. Debbie, most of the local school boards have a membership with MASB. I, as president, sought out some support from MASB to come and help facilitate this conversation. Debbie comes to us with a lot of knowledge and experience with decision-making, critical decisions for local districts, superintendent searches, and helping ensure that there's a seamless transition when we are faced with situations like what JPS is today. So I'm going to just open up this conversation by allowing Debbie to introduce herself, and then we're going to go right into a discussion with the board and how we would like to move forward. There will not be an action item tonight. We do plan to move forward with a special meeting, but this is our opportunity to discuss our next steps moving forward.
Thank you, Shalonda. I just want to say I'm happy to be here tonight to be a potential resource for you as you explore your options and your next steps. I've been on staff at MASB for 12 years now, but prior to that, I sat in your seats, and I have found myself in your position and worked through it successfully. And I certainly helped a lot of other districts and provided guidance, not only in governance, but in other areas as well. So I'm here to serve at the pleasure of the board. It's very typical for a board president to reach out to us upon a notification that a superintendent is leaving and seek some guidance. And so I'm happy to be here to do that this evening.
Thank you, Debbie. To the community and to everyone in the audience, on February 27th, the board received notice of Jeff Beal, Superintendent Jeff Beal, expressing his interest to take advantage of the voluntary severance agreement. And as a result of that, we have had to come to an understanding of what our options are as he plans to separate from our district. And today I just want to share some of the options that the board has to consider moving forward. In Jeff's resignation, he expressed that his last day would be, based on the direction of the board, June 30th. If the board agrees to that tonight, that would allow for us to have some time to work with MASB, discuss any other options as it relates to internal versus external search. If we're going to do an internal search, that would definitely be at the decision of the board. We could appoint an interested, worthy candidate within our district, and that would not require a search. If indeed we decide on an internal search, we would open it up to any other candidates that would express interest and look to have a board interview process to vet and provide some questions and expectations for that candidate or those candidates that would be interested in the internal process. And then we have the option to do a full external search where, if not, MASB is going to be utilized as our superintendent search agent. We would look at some other firms externally, someone that come in with a fresh lens and provide some support as we make a decision moving in that direction. So just to kind of paraphrase, we can appoint someone from within. We can conduct an internal process, which would require a posting and have individuals that are interested. The board would conduct interviews, or we can do a full external search utilizing MASB to facilitate that superintendent search, or I have been provided with a list of other firms that we could discuss moving forward if we decide as a board to conduct an external, full, comprehensive superintendent search. Trustee Dobies.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for MASB for attending tonight and hopefully addressing any of the questions that we may have, and for working with us through this process as we transition, hopefully before the end of June. I've had an opportunity to have a conversation with Jeff about his, intent to retire and what the best path forward might be, and thought about it a lot myself over the last week. I don't know what the rest of the board's interest is, but I do think being able to have someone, if we are going internal, have a internal application process that lands us with a fair amount of time to have said internal candidate, if appointed, to work with Jeff in the transition, so that we can have a very smooth transition with all of the things that are happening right now with our budgetary considerations, with the bond proposal, with some of the chaos and confusion that we're seeing from the federal government. So I would offer a motion just to be able to start to discuss this, to accept Superintendent Beal's resignation effective June 30th, and move that we post the superintendent position for internal applicants only, that we ask interested candidates to submit a cover letter expressing said interest along with the resume to the superintendent's office prior to 5 o'clock April 1st. That gives folks a couple of weeks. That the superintendent's office be directed to work with MASB to compile relevant interview questions, and that we aim to have those interviews on the 15th, and hopefully, I know we have a meeting on May 6th, maybe have deliberation between the 15th and arrive at a decision. If we do want to move forward with an internal candidate, then that gives a little bit less than 60 days before Superintendent Beal's departure, but I feel like that timeline is well suited for internal applicants and for us to have some continuity and a smooth transition going forward.
Point of clarity. The superintendent's acceptance, didn't we do that with all the other folks? Do we need that portion there? Help me understand, what are we doing? Did we accept his resignation with the other group of people?
With the contract or the voluntary severance agreement?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we don't need that, because I heard you say accepted. I'm just trying to understand
As
if
a
we.
formality.
Okay. So we know it's a formality. So we've already accepted it, folks. Okay. I just want to point of clarity for that.
I think there was some clarification on the date, though,
The
correct?
date, yeah.
And what was the clarity? Help me. What's that?
So he's,
Because his is different than everybody else's? What's the?
So in his resignation, he said that he would be, he's expressed interest for the separation, the voluntary separation agreement. And then based on our decision today, approving the group of individuals that have met the criteria, he's in that group. They have 7 days to rescind that agreement. Jeff has no desire to rescind that. He has made mention of that. And after that 7 days exhausted, then he plans to formally submit his resignation. And his resignation letter, he is proposing that his last day is June 30th of 2025.
Okay, I understood the part about his, the date. Was there something, what was the part that you were clarifying? Just help me understand.
Yep, that we've already accepted it in that previous agenda item. However, we need to accept that we agree to June 30th.
Okay, okay, that doesn't, it's confusing me, but it's okay. It makes sense that, but so we have to what, come back in, this is what month are we in? We got to come back in April and then accept his, I'm just confused around this acceptance thing.
Tonight,
Mm-hmm.
we need to accept his letter with those dates in there. So he would stay with us throughout the end of the school year to June 30th.
Okay, so this, and that would be a part of the superintendent vacancy? Is that what's
Yes.
that motion? Okay, so that's a
Yes.
different, that's another motion too, that we're going. Okay,
The
it's
voluntary
confusing, but
severance,
okay.
the voluntary severance agreement indicates the resignation is effective June 30th. I think what Jeff was trying to say is like, if there's another date
That we,
sooner or whatever.
Okay, that's helpful because I knew the June 30th date because we've been hearing that the whole time. That's why I
think-
was like, what are we
Yeah,
doing differently?
I think he wants to be accommodating to the board's
If we want to give him a
direction,
different date.
a sooner date or whatever, but
Oh, we can give him a sooner date?
I think he wants to work with the board
guess we
to
could give him a
figure
sooner
out
date.
what
We're
the
the board.
transition is. So I would
Okay,
offer
okay.
that
We
June
accept.
30th, we accept June 30th with the intent of being able to move forward with some internal applicants in order to, if the board finds an internal qualified applicant that they want to select as the next superintendent, with the kind of schedule that I recommended, that gives, less than 60 days to kind of shadow Jeff and make that transition. So
Trustee Hamilton, any more questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Support for the Derek's motion.
Derek, can you restate your motion, please? I'm sorry.
yeah. So move to accept Superintendent Buell's resignation with the effective date of June 30th and to post for the superintendent's position 2 internal applicants at JPS, and that we ask interested candidates to submit a cover letter expressing that interest along with a resume to the superintendent's office prior to 5 o'clock on Tuesday, April 1st, and that the superintendent's office be directed to compile relevant interview questions, probably working with MASB, and schedule interviews of those internal candidates for our next meeting on April 15th. We can interview those candidates, have an opportunity to deliberate. If we want to take action then, I suppose we can, but we also have a special meeting on May 6th as well. So that's what I would say, that we deliberate interview candidates at our next meeting on April 15th.
Trustee Acton, you supported that motion?
Support.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, please. So first, I'd like to know, Debbie, did you come here with a presentation for us with information?
No, I did not. I
Okay.
came to be a resource and to, answer any questions that might arise. So for instance, in your motion, Derek, you've listed the dates in there. I don't know if you want those to stay in there. There might have to be a little bit of flexibility when you start having a conversation with Jay Bennett, who's the Assistant Director of Executive Search Services, about what your process might look like. There's some nuances to it that you can choose to do or not. For instance, you might want to set up input sessions for your staff and or community. You may want to put together an online survey, even if you're doing just an internal search. Those things need a little bit of time to happen. Doesn't mean we can't meet that deadline, but I would hate to have you have those dates specifically in the motion and not have had the conversation about whether or not you want to take those steps. Often districts, especially when you're looking only internally, like to take those steps to get feedback from community and staff members. It gives, it helps them to understand you're trying to be transparent in the process and that you care what they think and that you're going to take some of those responses into consideration as you make your decisions. And so it is a good opportunity to allow for that time in there. But again, it's going to be your process and your timeline. We'll certainly work with whatever it is you want to do, but I think you might want to just pull those dates out to give yourself a little flexibility. So
And-
that's the kind of thing I'm here to talk about.
Thanks. I would also ask Derek that you would consider breaking them into two different motions. The first simply being accepting his resignation effective June 30th, and then to make a second motion regarding any kind of search. I agree, I don't think we really need all that detail in the motion, and that can come after, but I'd like to see it be two separate motions.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion and make a motion to accept Superintendent Beal's resignation effective June 30th.
Support.
Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries to support Jeff Beal's resignation letter. Final date with the district, effective June 30th, 2025.
I would make a second motion to direct the superintendent's office to work with MASB so that we can have a process by which we can interview candidates and receive community feedback by April 15th at our next meeting.
Support.
Discussion.
So I do have also a question about when you say internal search, does that mean that it gets posted on the JPS website? It does not go to MLive, it does not get posted in the regional want ads? What does that mean?
I think internal candidates means current employees of JPS. You can post it wherever so that internal candidates can apply, but internally, I mean candidates that are already working for JPS that are qualified so that we can be sure first to see if we can, promote from within before going outside to external candidates.
Trustee Acton.
So would it be, do boards usually just appoint, or do they usually use an outside source like MASB?
There's not one answer.
Okay.
Given the 500 boards across the state, it's a little of this and a little of that. And that's why, board presidents call the office and sort of discuss what are the specifics of the district, right? What are the current needs? There was a lot of discussion tonight about your budget situation. You have a bond issue that you're trying to move forward. Because of those things, you might have a different answer from us than another district who is not involved in those situations, right? So it's really about what best suits the district at a given time. And even if this was 2 years from now, it might be a different answer, right? Because again, you might find yourself in a different situation. So we want to customize our assistance to match your situation. I do think, as I was talking with Shalonda earlier today, that going through an internal process, whether it's an appointment process without, any interviews and those sort of things, or you go through the internal search, sort of full-fledged, there's a real shortage of candidates out there right now. The pool is not very deep. Just to give you an idea, last year there were 90 superintendent transitions in the state, and only 16% of those candidates were previously sitting superintendents. And so when you think about that, you're not likely to find necessarily a superintendent who already has that experience. You're likely going to hire someone who has assistant superintendent, an executive director, in some instances, building principals. And that's why for many districts, if they feel like they have some really good potential candidates from inside, that they go ahead and consider those candidates first. It doesn't mean that you can't go out and do an external search at the end, right? You could come to the conclusion that that's not what's going to be right for the district, but many times it is what's right. And that's why I suggested, you know, if you're going to do internal, then you really ought to consider those other pieces around that feedback.
Thank you.
Trustee Dobies, do you have any more questions? I
Oh,
see your
sorry.
light
No,
is
I
still
don't.
on.
But
Okay.
I do want to clarify that whatever the process is, at the end of the day, yes, we will appoint the next superintendent from this board.
Debbie, can you talk to us a little bit about current vacancies and if anyone's doing an external search, what candidates they might be pulling in?
So my depth of knowledge there is going to be a little bit less, you know, specific, because I don't typically do searches. And I've been traveling for the last few weeks. But I know that we currently have, I believe it's 12 searches posted and in process right now. This is the time of year that superintendents notify boards that they're going to be done at the end of the year. And so there's quite a few. Now, there's also some that are being run by other organizations. So there's more than 12 active searches in the state right now. The more there are at any one time, as you can imagine, the less likely you are to get a large pool, because candidates don't want to go out and just apply for everything. They're going to be very specific about where they apply. And so that's going to lessen likely the pool. In my conversations with our consultants, that's what I hear.
Debbie, can you just give us, how much does it typically cost if we were to consider a full search, comprehensive search? What would that,
You
just a
guys are getting
ballpark
into the nitty-gritty questions. And unfortunately, the two people best suited to answer these are out in districts tonight working with them on their searches. You know, I think if we look at an internal search, obviously the cost would be less than a full-blown external search, because there are additional pieces to that process, right? There's advertising and there's, you know, other checkpoints along the way. But I'm going to say that you're likely in the neighborhood of less than $10,000, even for a full-fledged search. Some of it depends on the consultants that's assigned and the expenses. You know, I don't know who will be assigned to work with you. Part of that would be determined, once again, with a discussion with Jay to find the right fit, right? We have a number of consultants who do the work, but we want to select the person to work with you who's the right fit for your district. And so that might mean they might live a little farther than somebody who's close. But if it's the right fit, you know, that's what we want to make happen. So there's a little give and take there, but I would say if you considered probably about $10,000, you would be pretty safe. Jay might be mad at me for saying that tomorrow. I don't know.
I had conversation with Jay regarding that, and he said you know, his first question was, what's your student count? We have to look at the student count. What's the geographic area and some of the identified needs in your school district? He gave me a range, $7,000 to $10,000.
Okay, so I did pretty good.
You did pretty good. But again, he said that there would be some other factors that we would need to consider, and one was the travel and the marketing that would need to happen.
And we really, I have to say, we really try to keep our fees low because you are our members. I mean, we're here to assist you as much as possible. So you may find a higher fee from other search firms. And there's also a couple of options for you, you know, should you decide to move forward with either the internal or external search. We have something called our Member Assistance Fund. And I would say, given your current budget situation, you would likely be a candidate for that. That comes from a subset of our board of directors. That could be up to $1,500 off of the initial proposal fee. If you haven't used your 75th anniversary rebate, there's $750 there. So there's some ways that the fee might be reduced based on some programs that we have.
And again, we wouldn't know all of this until we are assigned a consultant to work with us.
Yeah, Jay would, work through all of those issues with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So I checked this morning, there's 20 postings on MASB for superintendents.
Oh, they
What's-
might have gotten a lot more work while I was on
Yeah,
vacation.
maybe they popped up this morning, but I was just, what's the feasibility knowing that we have to have someone in place by July 1st? It's more expensive to consider an external candidate, but it's also more time intensive. Is it realistic to even consider having someone quality where we can consult the community and be transparent with an external candidate at this point?
Yeah,
in
so
your
an
opinion?
external search typically takes about 4 months from start to finish, if you go through all the steps. So you're not going to meet your June 30th deadline. And in that instance, you would either have to have a conversation about either an extension that Jeff would stay over, or that you would appoint an interim, because you do have to have a superintendent named by law. And so that's, I think, why much of the conversation has been around thinking internally first, knowing that you'd like that transition period, that they can spend time in the district with Jeff and, get the lay of the land. And obviously for someone who's in the district, they don't have to come in and learn it, right? There's a shorthand that happens with an internal candidate.
And the interim cannot be someone who's interested in the position, correct?
That's what Jay Bennett would recommend to you, correct? It changes the pool. So let's say you named an interim from within, and then you decide to do an external search. Many external potential candidates would look at that as you've already made up your mind, you're only going through the steps. So we usually suggest that if you have an internal candidate and you want to do a full-fledged external search, that they not be named the interim, and that we provide you with some ideas of who other, you might look to for that period of time.
Thank you.
Trustee Hamilton.
All right. So I would not be in support of this motion. And I have a few reasons why. One, I feel it would be tainted. 2, I feel it would be rushed. 3, I think we would be missing a huge opportunity. 4, I think it would exclude authentic engagement from our community. And 5, the cost, in my opinion, is minimal in comparison to what we hope and we recognize will end up being our superintendent for the next 5 to 10 years, potentially. So tainted in the sense that we have enough individuals here at JPS who have institutional knowledge and awareness and even experience around what it looks like to at least sit in an interim position should we need that. As far as Jeff being able to walk somebody through what that looks like. I think we have enough individuals at his cabinet, in his cabinet, and also within our staff that we don't need to rush this so that he can be here to do that. We don't need to do that. And tainted also in him being the one to do that. We don't need him helping to create the questions. We don't need him trying to guide the board on which direction to go. His service is over. With it being over, we don't need him to guide any of that. We can get outside support, outside folks to do that, to help us with that. And some of us have been on the board long enough to at least have some really good ideas around the resources that are available out there and directions to go to ensure that we're doing a good job with this process. So tainted in that way. Rushed because, again, with this institutional knowledge that we have in our district already, we just don't need to rush it for that reason. I get the 4-month thing. Thank you for clarifying that it could take 4 months and that legally we have to have somebody by July 1. We could definitely name an interim so that we can go through the process and give our due diligence to it. And we don't have to name that interim tonight. We can spend some time on that as well. A huge opportunity we would be missing if we try to just push this along, which is related to my next issue, and that is the exclusion of our authentic engagement with the community. This district has dealt with Jeff for all these years, and now that he's leaving, this is an opportunity for our district and our community to say, this is what we would like for our next superintendent to look like. The district, the community may say they want it to look like him, and the community may say they don't want it to look like him. We won't know what the community wants, what they want, if we don't authentically engage them. And attempting to, rush the process, even with us being, this is what, March, and needing to have somebody by July, that not being a full 4 months or whatever, even us not having it, if we didn't have somebody named by 4 months, I feel like we need to give our community an opportunity, because we're not going to have this opportunity again for another 5 to 10 years. So we need to be authentic in our engagement with them. And then the cost, again, having him here for whoever they are, who comes and becomes our next superintendent, they'll be here for 5 to 10 years or so. This is similar to the issue around curriculum. The cost, in my opinion, when I said yes to the curriculum, I think we were spending $300-something thousand. You know what I mean? And the cost didn't matter to me, because we got to have curriculum. We've got to have, we've got to be able to educate our students. And so the cost is not as important as the fact that we have relevant information, and appropriate, curriculum for our kids. So that's why the cost wasn't. So in relation to this, we are looking at somebody who's going to be here for the next 5 to 10 years. You know what I mean? We, as a board, we work. The meetings that we will need to due diligence, attend, the applications that we'll need to read, the questions, the interviews that will need to happen. We need to give ourselves time to do that. So I would make a motion that we amend Derek's motion to open this up to external candidates, which would, in my opinion, well, I won't even say in my opinion, which would include internal candidates as well.
We have a motion on the floor. Any support? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Madam President, I'd like to speak in support of my main motion. Understanding all of the things that were previously said, and I think this is an incredibly important decision. The reason for the tighter time frame is because we're evaluating internal candidates. My understanding is that likely will be a smaller pool of applicants. We will probably know, we will certainly know those individuals, and the opportunity for engagement can happen at every point when we walk out of this room to have a conversation about who is going to lead JPS next, who is the best candidate for that position. I am sure that individuals have already been expressing their interest to members of this board, and engaging authentically with different community members to have discussions with us. This is not to say that the motion means that we have to appoint the next superintendent on April 15th, but it is to set in motion, excuse me, the start of that conversation, and the ability to engage in a process over the next couple of weeks to see if there are any internal candidates that want to help JPS over the next 5 to 10 years. That is, it is the most important decision that this body will make. But I also will say that, depending on the contract that the board negotiates with the next superintendent, it's not something that can't be undone if things don't work out. So, I think that going through internal candidates first makes a lot of sense and will save us resources from starting there before evaluating external candidates.
Trustee Simonetti.
I would support your motion also, Derek. And I think that in this whole process, I don't think that it was ever implied that Jeff Beal would guide this process. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that he left the room for this discussion. So I don't have any concerns about that. And I will say, whether you are talking about Henry Ford Health, consumers, or Jackson Public Schools, Jackson's tough to recruit to. And you can go out there and ask those HR people. And I think it's extremely important that we look for someone that has ties to Jackson. And that was the one thing that stood out when we hired Jeff, and it kept him here for 11 years. And I think it's important. I think if you bring someone in from the outside and they sense any dysfunction, they're going to be gone. And that's the problem with superintendent turnover in general. And I think it's difficult to recruit. It's hard to bring someone from another community who has to relocate. I think ties to Jackson are important, which then would lead us to internal candidates.
Trustee Dobies.
So I have a question for Marcus. Marcus, is there, because there may be some costs incurred throughout this process with the engagement, with the engagement of external organizations to help us internally, do we need any sort of motion for costs not to exceed or anything like that? Or is there anything within the budget that would allow the
I suppose you could. I don't know of any guidelines surrounding that. We would just, whatever the negotiated cost would be, we would figure that into the final budget amendment in June.
Okay.
It would be board discretion, I guess.
Trustee Reddy. You had your item.
I just want to, I think Cheryl hit a bullseye, you know. And Derek, I also agree with both Cheryl and Derek. Yeah, we need to look at somebody who is part of this community, who knows inside out of this community, who is knowledgeable about this community. I think, like Derek said, we're not, you know, trying to close this by April 15th, but at least we get a chance to meet who those individuals are. If we find somebody, well and good. If not, we still got all the options open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Trustee Hamilton.
This is a question for Cheryl. Were you here when Jeff came on the first time? Was he living in Jackson when we?
But he had ties to the community.
So thank you for that. So he was not living here, and he had ties to the community. So if we opened it up to external candidates, there's a potential that there are individuals who don't live here, but yet have ties to the community that would be interested in coming here. Just so we're clear on that. So we don't have to choose somebody who's internally for that reason alone, because again, he wasn't living here and he had ties, and there are actually, you know, individuals that have moved away from here and have ties to the community who could come back. So just so we're clear on that. Yeah, thank you.
Point
no.
of clarification, is that another concern that you might have, offering internal and external simultaneously, that some external candidates may hesitate to
Yeah.
apply?
Yeah, absolutely. When they sense that there are potentially good candidates from within the district, oftentimes, you know, they don't want to put themselves out there, knowing that once they've accepted an interview, it's public knowledge that they, you know, are choosing potentially to leave their current situation. And so they become much more cautious when you do the two together. And that's why typically Jay would say, do your internal first. If you think you have, you know, some folks who might fit the bill, and then you can always say, thank you, but we still would like to look outside. And so then you could still move to that option. I do want to clarify a couple things that maybe I didn't do as good a job of presenting because this isn't my normal thing. One, Keisha, the superintendent, the current sitting superintendent, is not part of the process. They do not work on questions. They do not influence the process at all. Of any of our services, this is the one probably where the consultant works most closely with the board and not really with the superintendent at all. Now, Michelle is another story. She'd be helping to schedule things, and work with the consultant in that way, but the superintendent is not involved in that part of the process at all. I do believe that I stress the importance of engagement of your staff and community, and that we should make space for that to happen because it is an opportunity to build trust and transparency for the district. And so I know that Jay would suggest that you do that. And just so you know, while we might hope for another 10 years for the next superintendent, the average tenure of superintendents is much closer to around 4 years now, just because of the way things are. So I just wanted to share those pieces.
Is it Debbie? Debbie, which one is it?
Debbie.
Because I know it's a Deb too.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think it's important for the board to understand that he won't have any engagement in that because that was really bringing some real check marks, red ones in my mind, that this is be a horrible situation for him to be guiding that or helping with questions and I think that one of the things that they did say, and you can provide some clarity on this just from your experience that might help the board better understand. I think what they were saying was that not only him helping to guide the process some, but also him to be here to help maybe orient the new superintendent coming in. I think that's what the board was trying to say. Is that what you were getting as well or no?
Yeah, I think those are two different things.
Yes.
Involvement in the process
And I heard both those things.
orientation.
Right.
And there is definitely some benefit. There's always pluses and minuses to every situation, right? But there is definitely some benefit to having that orientation opportunity. I remember when we actually hired our internal candidate, the second time I went through a superintendent search, one of the comments she made to us later was, I worked closely with the board. I thought I understood the dynamics. I thought I really knew it. She said, but I didn't realize until I worked with the superintendent in that transition period that there was a lot that I was still missing. And she really appreciated having that time. It doesn't mean that your next superintendent is going to do everything the way Jeff does it. They aren't going to, right? I mean, that's just not the way it is. And so that orientation is not about instilling in them the right way to do things. It's more about making sure they have the full breadth of knowledge that they can about operations.
Thank you. Those were the points that I was making when I set up the things that I said. We didn't necessarily need him to do that orienting because we have his staff and this is for the board, not necessarily you. We have his staff and we have other members in the district with institutional knowledge who could do that orienting as well. The other thing you mentioned about space, the other thing that I was making a note of is that we do need time to authentically engage the community, which I heard you say, and which you heard me also repeat. And as you mentioned, we won't necessarily have enough time, at least with his timeline, which is why I heard you mention to him he probably should take the dates out. But again, that authentic engagement of our community is not incidental. It shouldn't be anecdotal. One person here or there. We actually need to have community sessions. We actually need to have opportunities for the community to engage us, and talking to somebody while you're walking down the hallway or through an email is not authentic engagement. That's not for you. This is for the board. So yeah, thank you.
I do think it's important that we engage our community. And so I think part of our motion should include that. Mr. Dobies. So again, moving forward, I would hope that that is part of our direction moving forward, is that whether it's a community forum, it's a survey, and it could be all of them. It could be a discussion, a special meeting where everyone comes in and discuss that. But I do feel that before we can make a decision that community engagement must be a part of the process.
Point of clarity, is that, does that need to be stated in his motion? Or help me understand what your desire is in relation to his motion?
For now, that was a discussion item, but I would like to add that to the motion.
So are you amending your motion, Derek, or what?
I would like to withdraw my motion again for the fourth time and offer a new motion, if you will. That we post the superintendent's position to internal applicants. That the superintendent's office, not the superintendent's office be directed to work with the MASB to assist the Jackson Public School Board of Education in conducting our internal search with the intent of arriving at April 15th, the opportunity to evaluate and interview those internal candidates. And I would also add that the costs of which are not to exceed $15,000.
Point of clarity. Deb, can you answer this question? Superintendent office, he said that a second time, supporting this position. Help me understand the process.
Yeah,
Because give me a minute. Because what I understand is the board is the one who does the whole, who works directly, not the office. Is that, help me understand, should that be in his motion? Is that appropriate? What is it?
Yeah, there are definitely logistical issues that we would work with
Madam Chair.
typically the superintendent secretary on.
Point of order.
Okay.
If I may address my own motion, and the point of asking questions through the chair is so that the chair can direct those questions or answer those questions. But with respect to this, there are certain like scheduling things, even with Jeff removed, there are postings, there are things that Chris is going to have to do that anyone that is not planning on applying will probably have to help with and assist with, that Michelle will help with. So that is why I said the superintendent's office. The superintendent is the one person that reports to the board, that works directly for us. Ergo, I said his office and working with MASB to facilitate that process. I'm happy to restate my motion if appropriate. Otherwise, I would call the question.
Question is called. Any more discussion?
Yes, one last thing.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I've called the question.
Well, she asked the discussion, so, you know.
My call of the question is a vote of the board.
That's correct. Derek Dobie's called the question. At this time, deliberation has taken place. The motion has been made. It has been supported. At this time, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
All right, we're calling the question, which means that we have to take a vote to end debate. It requires 2/3 of a vote of us to stop talking about this motion, my third motion or whatever, but we have to take a vote to close debate.
At this time, we will take a vote to close the debate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now we immediately proceed to take the vote on the motion.
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Debbie, for coming. We appreciate your time. I will be in touch with you, myself and Michelle, moving forward.
Yeah, I will let Jay know tomorrow that I know he's already had some thoughts about how to
Sure.
move forward. I know that you've had that discussion. We do appreciate that you've put your faith in us and to assist with this process. I'm sure they'll find exactly the right fit with your consultant, and you'll be in good stead with whoever that is. So thank you for allowing me to be here this evening with you, and I hope that you found it helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to move to the old business. We have 2 more agenda items under old business, strategic plan. The strategic plan came before the board last month, and there was a lot of discussion around implementing that within our district. After receiving notice of our superintendent's plan to resign, we think that it is important that we table this for now and bring it back before the board in June or July, at which point we should have some direction on who the next candidate will be, and we will plan to begin that process with our new candidate as superintendent. At this time, I'll make a motion to approve the strategic plan a motion to approve this agenda item. Yeah, so we've already discussed it. So basically, approve the motion to bring it back before the board, June, July, once we, as the board has made it, have some guidance on moving forward, our path forward with another candidate.
So without putting a time frame on it, because we really don't know that time frame, I would make a motion that we table the strategic plan until we have a new superintendent in place.
Discussion. All in favor of tabling this until we have a new candidate in place, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Committee of the Whole, that was another item that was brought before the board last month. And at the time that I presented that agenda item, there was some concerns with the feasibility of scheduling and ensuring that the full board would have the flexibility, the availability to join another meeting each month. We were not able to meet the needs of everyone's work schedules. And at this point, we're going to table this.
I'll move to table the committee of the whole.
Support.
Discussion.
We have a motion to move this, to table the committee of the whole discussion item, old business item, pardon me. Motion, support, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, that takes us to board comments. Anyone like to speak tonight?
I thought it was a good meeting. We accomplished a lot. I would like to congratulate everyone who took advantage of the voluntary separation, and especially those people who will be retiring. Congratulations for that. And for everyone in the district, I would like to wish a happy, healthy, safe spring break to our students, our parents, and families, and especially to our graduating seniors, to be safe. Thank you.
So I had the privilege to read at Hunt in Mrs. Swope's class and Mr. Van Epps' fourth grade class. They were wonderful students. And also the Short Park, the kindergartners with Mrs. Rando. And just congrats again to our DECA students. And just what a great job Mr. Cunningham's doing. And good luck at nationals. And yeah, have a great spring break.
Trustee Dobies.
Congrats to everyone that is, taking advantage of the voluntary severance agreement, and those that will be hopefully applying for the superintendent position internally. Look forward to seeing what sort of interest that we get there. Looking forward to having some well-deserved time off for spring break. I know it's a time of relaxation and vacation for some. I'm not from here. I'm from come from Brighton, and one of the things that touring the schools at different times, we may not all talk about it at our board meetings, but we do all do that, and I certainly do, and I've been doing it for a couple of years and have toured through some of the schools right before spring break. And I think it's, it's hard to see some of those students that don't look forward to spring break for various reasons and see our school system as a resource and as a safe place, as a place where they're going to get at least 2 meals a day and be able to be close to people that love them. So, I just want to recognize those teachers and administrators and people that work in the schools that care so much about those kids and go above and beyond to make sure that they feel loved and cared for in our school system around this time. That's it.
I'll piggyback off of that. I had the opportunity to visit Sharp Park and also the district improvement meeting this month, and I'm just so encouraged by the intentionality of loving on our students that I see. Yes, we see some things academically that are being addressed, and we are pursuing those tenaciously, but we see students as a whole person, and we see that in our efforts as well. And we are addressing those with intentionality, which I so appreciate. And thank you to everyone who is working in a classroom with students or outside to love on those students. We appreciate you.
Yep. So I want to start with my 10-year-old son really wanted to come to the meeting today, but Mama said no because last time he was here, we went home around 11 o'clock. So, but today I strongly believe that the meeting went beautiful. I know there are a couple things which were brought up here. First, DECA, congratulations to all those students. It's amazing how we go out, compete nationally. And then I got a couple more kids, Tanvi Tyagi, who's part of the DECA, and Jacob Cherkle, both got their National Merit Scholarship. Congratulations to them. I know both of them for more than a decade, both the kids. The other thing, academic games, all the players of Jackson High academic games, they got selected to nationals too. So, which is amazing accomplishment by our kids. This is something I want everybody to make this viral, because this is who we are. So again, yep, I miss my son. He's not here, but next time I'll bring him for sure. Yeah, I know.
I too had the opportunity to participate in March's Reading Month, and so much respect for the teachers. So much respect for the teachers, their patience. One of the teachers was sitting down and holding the hand of another student, and just watching the children lean into those supportive adults. If you haven't had the opportunity to volunteer, you still have a couple weeks. Please contact us and let us know what school you want to attend. Contact Michelle and let her know. But those opportunities are, you get to see something different. It's one thing for them to come here and do a presentation, but to go into their space that they're in for 5-6 hours out the day is really awesome to see. And just want to say thank you to all the teachers, the administrators, the hard work that you're putting in with our students, and watching the students smile and feel that connection. DECA, congratulations to all the students. Wow. I saw the JPS post on Facebook and just went through and kind of reading some of that post content and feeling like, how can we better promote this program? There's so many more students that could benefit from participating in this. So that's my goal, is to try to promote some awareness for the DECA program. And Pathways, to have that young lady come here tonight and share her experience of the long-lasting relationships that she's created with peers. And she prefaced her statement with saying she was afraid. She didn't think, that it was going to be a great experience. And she came from other JPS schools within our district. So that says a lot about our leadership and our administration and Pathways. Thank you to your hard work. We have a lot of work to do at the board table. We had 3 policies that went before was directed to go to the policy committee tonight. I'm hoping that when those come back, that they are presented with the fine tuning that we are anticipating, so that we can make those informed decisions moving forward. Definitely want to make sure that we are moving in a direction that is inclusive to all students. Thank you for everyone that stayed to the end. We appreciate your commitment to JPS. No other questions, no comments? I will move to the calendar. April 1st, 2025, we have another community engagement session that is scheduled for the bond. It will be held at Parkside Media Center at 5:30 p.m. We will have another one on the 3rd, so a Tuesday and a Thursday, I believe. If you can't make one, you have another opportunity to attend the other scheduled one. They're in the same week. Please, we value your input. Come support the bond, and with sharing your perspective on how you reimagine what our district can and should look like. And then April 15th, 2025, our regular board meeting, again, back here in the JHS Media Center. And Chris, really quick, anything that you want to add to the bond before?
Yeah, just real quick. So those are our first community engagement meetings. So the bond committee has met. They've put together their ideas of what they think the bond should look like, and now it's coming to the community. So you can pick either day to go, but those, you don't have to RSVP. We're going to share it out. We want everybody to come. We encourage you to invite people to come and get the word out there that these meetings exist. And they are meant to be presentational, and we'll have some refreshments, but mostly it's meant to present what the bond committee thinks the bond should look like, and then get the community feedback. From that, then there'll be 2 more meetings that talk about what did we hear from our community once we sent it out. So it's kind of a process. But this is a really important one for you to come to see what we've come up with as a bond committee, and that included a lot of community members. And then where do we go from here?
Thank you, Chris. Motion to approve adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Yeah.
I'd like to amend my
Anyone
motion to
opposed?
adjourn.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Michelle, next time, try to make sure it's not too cold. I've been shivering for the last 1 hour.